Well, thank you everyone for being here tonight to honor Tom and Diane Richardson for 40 years of ministry and 50 years of marriage. I'm going to wait for a second here while Tom and Diane get up here. And Diane. Look at all that God has accomplished in the world through them. They have two beautiful daughters, Shauna on the West Coast, and Rachel, who lives here with her husband. And in 40 years of ministry, Tom has spoken in 27 countries. And he estimates that he has led 10,000 people to make a first time or a renewed commitment to the Lord. And I was thinking of the ramifications of that a little bit. I mean, just think if each one of those people would lead one other person to the Lord. But Tom was telling me a story this morning about going to one community and giving a seminar and then coming back a short time later and meeting one of the people converted there who had led 32 people to the Lord in the time between when Tom first came and came back. So pretty remarkable stories. Tom's ministry was appropriately named People Reaching People, because that's what his life has always been about. And it would not have been possible without Diane's full support. So I don't minimize that at all. Most of the time, Tom was overseas somewhere, it seemed like. Gone a lot of times. And I know that was a tremendous challenge for Diane and his girls, for him to be gone, and yet they knew what God's calling was and the accomplishments that were coming, the fruit that was being born of that. And Diane also had a ministry of her own, paired with Tom's, helping. The model was simple but profound. He opened our eyes to the fact that each and every day is filled with divine appointments, whether we recognize them or not. Tom's admonition to us was to expect these divine appointments, recognize them, and witness for Jesus each time they arose. Tom lived his life that way. And I know you know that. Every time he sat next to someone on a plane, the conversation would turn to the Lord. That's probably why Tom's illness has been so protracted. God does not wish that any medical professional in the Champaign-Urbana area should perish without the chance to know him. So, Tom has lived his life according to 1 Peter 3:15, which says, "Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give a reason for the hope that is in you." The only difference is that Tom doesn't usually wait for them to ask. He just launches right in. Our other goal tonight, of course, is to bless Tom and Diane financially. In recent years, Tom's illness has forced him to retire from ministry. That and some other difficulties have created a tremendous financial need. But I've spoken long enough, so I would like to invite Linda Jacinto to come up and tell you a little bit about her working relationship and friendship with Tom and a little bit more about the needs.
It's an honor to be here before you this evening, and especially my good friend Tom. I am one who waters, so I am prepared. I always come prepared wherever I go. I met Tom 1982 at WBGL when I first started there. And Tom came in and he was on the radio and he wanted to do some spots, and then he needed somebody who could type. And very foolishly, you asked me to do some typing. Diane was already your secretary, but I could type, and I began to help him during that time. So it's been 42 years now. We've been friends for all those years, yes. I have been blessed. He lives what he says.
Amen.
And if you've ever been out to a meal with Tom, you know that within a minute, he's going to know the name and the spiritual condition of your waitress or your waiter. he taught me how to do that. And over the years, I have taken that model, Tom, because 2 Corinthians 5:14 and 17. Christ's love compels him to do this. He has been given the ministry of reconciliation, as we all have. And Tom has used that, and he has taken and trained others in how to bring people to Christ. And he is an expert in this. So I want to tell you, my husband and I are missionaries in the Philippines. And we started that ministry in 1995. Tom was our first real visitor in 1996 to come, and he has taught almost every single student. We have approximately 500 students, graduates at ACBS in the Philippines. And Tom has taught almost every student that has come through our school. Been raised in the church, and one of the other students in the class that he was teaching was the son of a pastor. And if you've ever been to Tom's seminars, you know how Tom does this. He teaches you how, and then he has you practice with each other on how to witness and lead somebody to Christ. So we did this practice, and at the end of the session, we found out that Eric and Rosalie, these two that had been raised in the church, during the practice session, realized that they had never made a commitment to Christ. And the testimony during the testimony time was of the joy of finding out the truth that they now were born again. Now Rosalie is the wife of a pastor, and they've been in ministry for a long time. And Eric went back up with his family up north of us to continue the ministry up there. Tom, there's so many lives that you've touched. But there's one more story I want to tell you about. Now, Tom, some of these pictures up here, I just want you to know, these are some that I sent of different activities with Tom. He's prayed with, he's counseled, he's taught. That is one of his girls that he calls Papa. She just got her PhD this year. She has stayed with us since 1996 and has continued in the ministry there. And she continues to teach. The place is full of literally hundreds of high school and college age students in there. And you know, Tom is no shy person at all, not even a little bit. There's a table next to us, about 10 girls, all in their uniforms. And Tom started up a conversation with a young girl that was sitting right at the edge of the table. And he started talking to her, found out that her father is a pastor. Will you tell these girls about Jesus? And then she said, sure. So Tom, you went and stood up at the side of the table, and you said to all 10 of those girls, if you will all listen to her tell you about Jesus, I will buy you all ice cream. That was a deal made in heaven, literally. Divine appointment. Here we are surrounded by all these students, and you know the influence, everybody wants to be cool. You don't want to be in McDonald's sitting there and listening to Jesus being preached to. These younger ladies sat there and listened to this young lady tell them all about Jesus. And then they all bowed their heads together. And they prayed right there. Everybody around prayed to receive Christ right there in McDonald's. I will never forget that time. Tom and Diane have lived their ministry. He is a witness to all the people there. So many people. Thousands of lives have been changed because of you, Tom. I am so thankful. And I'm thankful for all of you that have sent him over to us over the years. And I really hope, now, one time, just real quickly, long ago, we were at a WBGL rally. And I have a way of saying things at the most inappropriate time. And I'm not going to tell them about the pants. Harley, check your pants. I'm not going to tell them about that.
Around the world, Tom preached for Christ. He traveled on when hope was gone to send God's message round. He knew somewhere, sometime, somehow, they'd look at him and they would see the Spirit alive in him. It might have been in old Japan or Singapore, the Middle East, or even Chinatown. God sent him all around the world to share his love and grace so true. I'd like to ask you a question.
What is it?
Do you love me?
Do I what?
Do you love me?
Do I love you? Since our daughter got married and one moved out of town, you're upset. You're worn out. Go inside. Go lie down. Maybe it's indigestion.
Diane, I'm asking you a question. Do you love me?
You're a fool.
I know. But do you love me?
Do I love you? For 50 years I've washed your clothes, stood by you, cleaned your house, watched you travel, fixed your chow. After 50 years, why talk about love right now?
The first time I met you was here in Champaign. I was scared.
I was shy,
I was nervous.
so was I.
But our friends and Diane's brother said we'd learn to love each other. So now I'm asking you, Diane, do you love me?
I'm your wife.
I know. But do you love me?
Do I love him? For 50 years I've lived with him, shared with him, prayed with him. For 50 years my bed is his. If that's not love, what is?
Then you love me.
I suppose I do.
And I suppose I love you too. It doesn't change a thing, but even so, after 50 years, it's nice to know.
One of my best friends and one of the most special people I've ever known in my life. And that's the last nice thing I'm going to say about it. Because it's time to have a little fun with Tom. Tom and I go out to eat every so often. And after we've eaten, just before it's time to leave, Tom will look at me and say, "Rick, where can we go to get some ice cream?" And then we'll take off and find some place to get some ice cream. And when we go and we're finished, I have to make sure that the cup and spoon are thrown away and all the ice cream on his face is wiped off, so Diane won't see any of the evidence when he gets home. So, me too. So, when I thought about that, I thought, that's what one of the things I want to say about Tom, so I wrote a song. Thankfully, you're not going to listen to me sing it. Dave has volunteered to do that for me.
Dairy Queen blizzards and sprinkles on Sundays, milkshake from Culver's and custard from Jarling's, Klondike sandwiches and Rocky Road treats. These are a few of Tom's favorite sweets. Haagen-Dazs ice cream and chocolate chip toppings, 31 flavors topped up with ice cream. Ben and Jerry's Chunky Monkey, what a treat. These are a few of Tom's favorite sweets. When the snow falls, when the rain flies, when Tom's feeling sad, he simply remembers his favorite treats, and then he don't feel so bad.
South Carolina, Tom became 1 in 12,500.
What a shot. What a shot. That be somebody a hole in one. Folks, you're not going to believe this. Tom just got a hole in one on a, 190? Ball. T-box is just in front of the house. You can see the white here. I'll zoom up on it. Okay, there's the white. There they are. I'm steadying myself here. I'm so excited. There's the white T-box. Water in front there. Oops. And there's water in front here. This guy is taking his time. What he's doing. We're coming up here. Here's the man. Tiger. Tiger pool. I bet you there haven't been too many hole-in-ones on this hole. Look at that. That's where he hit from. And there is the ball. Okay, yes.
This is Rick's private golf course. This is
Oh,
a summer home.
Quick.
Residents and islands of the Pacific. And
my appreciation for Tom really started before I ever knew him or met him. It was 25 years ago that we came to Meadowbrook to pastor, and Tom was asked to be the interim pastor of Meadowbrook in between the transition. And so he had been in this assigned role, pastoring Meadowbrook, for a few months before I ever met him. And my appreciation for him certainly was greater because he did just do a wonderful job of preparing the way and preparing the people for my arrival and tenure here. And I will always thank you for taking Meadowbrook through this transition period, this interim period. He truly did love the church here. He's always been so loyal and caring about Meadowbrook. And I don't know, for whatever reason, I always had a good feeling, Tom, when I was out getting ice cream or whatever with you, that you always introduced me as my pastor. And for whatever reason, that coming from you meant a lot.
The reason I get in so much trouble is because I'm diabetic.
But you know, to be an evangelist, to be a missionary evangelist, as long as he has been, is really quite exceptional. It's really quite amazing. Lots of travel, lots of weekends, lots of motel stays, different environments, different churches, different cities, different towns, different countries. But Tom loved it. He loved it. And as we would compare pastoring to being an evangelist, Tom would always tell me, tongue-in-cheek, I'd rather change churches than change sermons. And so, and he understood pastors. And so if there were any struggles that I might be having in different ways that were just, I needed someone to process with, he was always there, and I always knew that he would keep a confidence and we could talk about those concerns, those matters. So.
Thank you all. Donations. Anybody else who's not donating, I'll ask it back over here. Brogan walked in the room. I'm going to yield my time to Gary. You want to say a few words, Gary? Sure. Dr. Brogan.
Hey,
We love Tom and Diane and their family. We're praying for Tom's salvation. So good to see so many friends here. Chuck and Momo, good to see you guys. He used to be one of my youth leaders way back in the 1970s. So, Tom, you look a little better than when I was in the hospital visiting you. So I'm glad Diane has something on put something on you other than your pajamas. So, it was my joy to serve on Tom's board for 10 years, and I loved our yearly meeting because, he was trained as a king, where he would talk about how many beds he had slept in that year, how many miles he had driven, how many miles he had flown in planes, how many times he had spoken. And then he would always say something like, and you've all heard this, that it's easier to find a new place to preach the same sermon than to write another sermon. So he really got good at them. And is your garage still full of all those books? If you want some of those books, go over and get them. I've given away hundreds of them. So anyhow, we love Tom and Diane, and thank you, Pastor Ron and team and church, for honoring him tonight. It's just wonderful. So many people have come, and God bless you.
Words from Tom and Diane.
Somebody, I think it was it Linda, or somebody said, my brother introduced us, and that's totally the truth. I was a student here, and my brother brought Tom over to witness to me. So, yes, and I thought, it's fine for my brother, but, I was a hippie, but it kept growing on me. Anyway, my mom was praying that I would marry Tom. We hadn't even met, but that's what happened. We got married. The Lord at one point said to me, I really believe this, you can marry Tom or you can have a normal life. And the Lord told me that. And I mean, we had just been dating a while, and I thought, well, he does some pretty exciting things, and normal life sounds kind of boring, so I was right. I married him, and I have not had a normal life. That's for sure. And I've gotten to travel a lot of places. I remember when I was a teenager, sitting outside our house and thinking, if I could just go to California someday, that would be so wonderful. And I think I've been in 11 countries and a lot of states. But the difference between me traveling and Tom traveling is he would go to the dangerous places, and I didn't. And I think that's probably the only thing that hasn't been mentioned is Tom riding on a motor scooter behind their pastor in Nepal through these streets doing this kind of thing, just holding on to the guy's waist.
And our prophet said, God help.
That's right. Going to Romania right after it was freed from the Soviet Union, and taking a train into Romania at night. And they told him, be careful of pickpockets, getting off, getting a cabbie, just not knowing anybody, grabbing this cabbie who drove him out into the countryside to some Christian base, was locked up. So he's driving out there with somebody he doesn't know that could be a killer or whatever, but off he goes. And what was the other one? Witness to prison if you do that. And so Tom would do all those things that, and he just didn't think anything about it. That was what the Lord called him to do. And if it was dangerous, well, that's what the Lord called him to do. So I admire my own husband for that. And I think I had something else to say, but I don't remember what it was. So thank you all for this tonight. Just thank you for being here. I've seen so many faces that I haven't seen for years. And just thank you. Thank you for your kind words for Tom. Really appreciate it.
Shocked at the attendance and blessed by it. Thanks for coming. I've heard your name a lot tonight, but I couldn't get all that without Diane. takes a rare wife to be my teammate and pray with me and for me almost every day of our married life. And it's it's been 50 years, and some people probably won't talk about it out loud, but if you ask them if you had the chance to do it over again, would you? And they go, well, I don't think so. I would. She's a huge blessing to me. And Diane, I thank you for that. Thank you for loving me, because sometimes I know I'm a jerk. And she's just she's steady. She's a rock. And I got very, very blessed to have her as my teammate for, as of next week, 50 years. And thanks for being you. Let's shoot Katie, stick by it. I've seen you in quite some time, and yet you came tonight. Thank you for doing that. I'm honored that you're here and organizing this. I had nothing to do with it, but I sure have enjoyed it. And there's a special guest here to me that probably hardly any of you know. And that's my sister. Stand up, Doc. And that's her husband, Bob. To our church, and Bob's one of the 6 permanent elders there, and that was the scare of my parents. But I thank you for coming tonight. I did help a lot with our daughter, who is here tonight, Rachel. I'm very proud of her. She's over there waving. She were. But most of our married life, we have prayed together every day. And even when we didn't pray together, we still prayed. So thanks for all of you that put tonight together. I think this is an incredible evening I'll never forget. Well, I shouldn't say that with my memory now. Chuck goes on. So God bless all of you. And I'd like to say a prayer for you folks. May I do that? Yeah. Thank you for these precious people. I thank you for how Diane and I's lives have been blessed.